You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
It is almost Christmas, which means we have another Christmas cultural story to share with you.
Yes.
Is that how we should sum up the series this
Sure.
week?
We're going to talk about like food and Christmas, so
Yes.
it's all good.
Food. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Today we head to Puerto Rico. Actually, Puerto Rico comes to us. The Reverend James and Deaconess Christel Neuendorf joining us in studio while they're here for a Reconnect, which is actually in November. So even before Advent, we're talking about Christmas, recording in studio. Neuendorfs, thank you so much. Pastor, welcome.
Thank you. And actually, in Puerto Rico, they're already celebrating Christmas.
Oh,
Very good.
nice.
We're good.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Deaconess Christel, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I love talking about Christmas in general, talking about Advent, talking about cultures around the world. And so let's talk a little bit about where you serve, the communities where you serve. Tell us a little bit about the communities where you serve in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So in Puerto Rico, we have 3 congregations now. We have one in Mayagüez, the oldest, now in Ponce, and then now in San Juan. So we're kind of all across the island there, serving God's people there in our churches.
So serving 3 congregations. Tell us a little bit more about the people of Puerto Rico, maybe some interesting facts, interesting trivia about Puerto Rico and where you live and serve.
Yeah, so actually, speaking of Christmas, Puerto Rico is kind of known as the Christmas Island. We have the longest Christmas celebrations in the world. I don't know who certifies that. There must be a board or something that measures. It's like the Guinness Book of World Records for Christmas celebrations. But Puerto Ricans love Christmas, and there's a lot of local traditions kind of built around it. And then as we're planting churches, we're also kind of introducing and forming new traditions as the church itself forms. Puerto Rico is a really fascinating place because everything is English and Spanish kind of mixed together. It's the United States and it's Latin America mixed together. It's Spain, it's Africa, it's indigenous culture, all in a big, unique pot. So there's really nothing quite like it.
What do you guys actually do as you're serving in these different communities? You mentioned 3 churches now. What are some of the things that you actually get to do in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, we have a lot of fellowship time. One thing that we've really been focusing on as a team, we have a whole team of people that we work with, wonderful team. And a big part of that is bringing people together. A big part of that is eating, which we're excited to talk about what we do for Christmas. But shocker, that brings people together. So that's been something that we have really focused on doing and ultimately bringing them into the church, right? Bringing into the word and sacrament. So we do a lot of just kind of things that you would do when you get together with friends, games, we do crafts, eating together, bringing people together to be a family.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we get to Christmas, it is proper that we talk about Advent, correct?
Correct.
All right.
All in good order.
Advent. Is Advent observed much? Aside from the congregations you're serving, is Advent even culturally known in Puerto Rico?
Yeah. So in Puerto Rico, we are introducing Advent, I think, for the first time. And it's kind of a neat thing. I'm sure that there are, some Roman Catholic churches that also have Advent services. But culturally, Advent is kind of absent. People go from Halloween immediately into Christmas. Some of them already had Christmas decorations up before Halloween.
Oh my goodness.
So it's been kind of a neat thing to start teaching Advent and the idea of how that all works with the church here. And one of the things we've actually been doing recently is introducing Advent wreaths as part of family devotions. You want to maybe talk about that?
Yeah. So last year we had the opportunity to gift our families with a small Advent wreath. And so everyone was able to have one in their home while at church. And once a week we would come together during our fellowship times and show kind of how we use this. This is something that helps us kind of count down to Christmas as well as, the birth of Christ, right? So we would get together, we would have our wreath, we'd light the candle, we would do a short devotion with our family and kind of modeling what that looks like and what it could look like in your home.
Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you in your churches as you celebrate Advent in the different churches where you are?
Yeah, so kind of one of the neat things that we're doing in Puerto Rico is we have very, very frequent weeknight services. So everybody talks about, okay, in Advent, you're going to have extra services. We already have more services all the time. We do 3 nights a week, plus Sunday. So it's kind of a change in which people are already accustomed to coming regularly to evening services. And it's the topic that changes rather than the habit. So it's been kind of a neat thing to help people see how the church year and the topics that we're going throughout the year. We use the 1-year lectionary, so it's very topical. It affects life and the way we're thinking about the return of Christ. We're thinking about the end of things now. We're thinking about the coming of Christ, and then we're celebrating that he has come. And really, for people who already know about Epiphany and they know about Christmas, but haven't really considered what those things mean, it's been a neat thing for traditions that they already love to suddenly be given deeper meaning, helping people rediscover some of their own favorite things.
I love this. The advent of Advent in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
It's very meta.
So you mentioned that you, in addition to Sunday services, you already gather together regularly for services throughout the week as well. What do those times together look like when you gather together during the week?
Yeah, so we do a morning and an evening prayer service on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. We do 12 services a week right now in Puerto Rico. And what those are usually really short, responsive prayer, especially in the morning. We'll sing one hymn, we'll pray. We have a very long prayer list because what we'll do before is we'll go throughout the community and we'll talk to people, ask them how we can pray for them, how we can serve them as a congregation. And then we bring those back and we immediately pray for them. So do that in the morning, and then in the evening we do another short service, similar liturgy, but with preaching as well. So we're preaching a lot and get to share the gospel every day. How awesome is that?
Now, is this in Spanish or in English or in both for you?
A little bit of both. In Ponce, where we live, it's all in Spanish. There's a lot less English. But then as we're planning this new congregation up in San Juan, there's a lot of people that speak English. So, for example, we'll have the liturgy in Spanish and we'll preach in English or in Spanglish or in Spanish and then hand people an English translation because we have some people that don't speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit all over the place. In Mayagüez, they'll do a lot of bilingual ministry as well.
So how many Christmases have you guys actually been in Puerto Rico for?
Been 4 now.
All right.
Yeah.
So this will be your 5.
Yes.
And you've said that Christmas is already happening. As time of recording, Christmas is already happening. Do you know you may not know this, but do you know why Christmas is such a thing in Puerto Rico?
I'm not sure where it started. Of course, they're coming from Spanish tradition, but it's kind of an interesting thing too, because Christmas isn't actually the center of the celebration. It's the Three Kings Day.
Oh.
And in fact, even the tradition of giving gifts, it's not Santa Claus who gives gifts, it's the Three Kings. And so kids will set out, like a shoebox full of hay?
Yeah, or grass. And a bowl of water for the camels. The night before Epiphany, right?
Yeah. So Epiphany is really the center of it. And really what they'll do is they'll start even before Christmas. But the reason they call it the longest Christmas celebrations is really from about December 24th through to January 6th or 7th is everybody's off. That whole time is as though it were December 25th. You're with family. You're going to Christmas parties. That is all Christmas. It's not just 24 hours. It's
all
great.
12 days.
Yeah, we don't sing the 12 days of Christmas, but we do the 12 days of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
We do here at KFUO too.
We do. It's true.
That's good.
We do like to observe the full 12 days of Christmas here at KFUO. It's become a tradition now for, I don't know how many years we've been doing that, where we observe the full 12. So I didn't realize that it was just because we were in sync with our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico.
That is
observing
exactly
the
why.
full 12 days of Christmas. All right. So you have 12 days then to party and celebrate Christmas.
And go to church.
Well, that's part of the party, right?
Part.
That's festival. So what are the services that take place during the Christmas season?
Yeah, so a lot of this we're still forming because these are new habits for everyone. Some people had never been to church on Christmas before. That was something we had to kind of say, you should. This is something you want to do. So we have our Christmas Eve service and a Christmas Day service, and then we just keep mostly some of our regular evening services going. Epiphany is a bigger event for them, and it's kind of an interesting thing for us to teach Epiphany more because here it's like because of Christmas, everybody you don't skip Epiphany, but you don't really think about it very much. But we have the opportunity to really talk about, what does Epiphany teach about Christmas? What does it mean that we're considering the revelation of Christ, of Jesus Christ as God, not just Jesus Christ as incarnate, but also that he is God from heaven. So that's been neat to kind of look at those two things together liturgically. It's interesting too, because Epiphany being so central, when we're in Ponce, one of our suburb towns is where Puerto Ricans say the three kings originally came from. Now that I don't think is historically accurate. I think if you check in the Bible, it doesn't say anything about a Caribbean island being where they go. But it's the local tradition, and people have a lot of. So we have a lot of the Three Kings celebration happens really right in our backyard, and people dress up as the kings, and there's parades and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but kind of going back to like Christmas Eve, we have the service, but after the service, we have a big dinner with everybody, and we have all of our, the typical food and everything. Kind of everyone's going to go out probably to their families maybe later, but as a church, we're a family too. And so what does this look like, kind of creating that? And so we've been able to do that now for a few years, and all the congregations have. So it's been really...
Especially we have a lot of people that have been coming to the mission who are all alone. Mm-hmm. We have people who have moved, their families have moved to the United States, or maybe they don't have family. And Christmas in Puerto Rico has also recently been really tied with depression. And there's a lot of campaigns about that. So one of the things that we really emphasize is that the church is your family, and you're not alone at Christmas. You're with the church. So we try to make sure that we're there, all the way through to the midnight meal everybody does on Christmas Eve. And we set time aside at a different time for our families, because it's so important for people to have that and to not be alone, but to be part of their church family where really celebrate Christmas.
We are learning about Christmas in Puerto Rico with our friends who serve in Puerto Rico, the Reverend James and Deaconess Christel Neuendorf. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment right here on the Coffee Hour.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
We are talking Christmas in Puerto Rico with the Reverend James and Deaconess Christel Neuendorf, who serve the Lord there. I've been there for 4 Christmases. This will be 5th Christmas now in Puerto Rico. All right, before we took a break, you'd mentioned that one of the things you do on Christmas Eve is you gather for a meal. I think you said around midnight. Okay, so since you mentioned meal, that means we have to talk about food for the holidays, and you observe the full 12 days of Christmas there. So let's start with Christmas Eve and the food. Maybe there are traditions for food throughout the whole week. So what happens on Christmas Eve in terms of food? What am I eating? I mean, what are you eating?
Right, what am I? One of the big things for all of the holidays is a roasted pig, like on an open pit fire. So that's a big thing that starts early and that, go on. So, you're able to buy. We unfortunately, haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe one day we'll do that. But so we always have pork, rice with gandules or pigeon peas, I guess you would say. That's really very typical. A big thing though there's a food called pasteles. And so what it is you make like a dough either with plantains or with green bananas, or there's even some made with rice, all sorts of things. That's your dough. And then inside you can either put pork or you can put chicken. You can kind of, however you want it. You put raisins in. That's a big controversial thing, but I like raisins. Anyway, it gets wrapped up into a banana leaf or a plantain leaf. It's been smoked over a fire. You can also do it over your stove if you have a gas stove. That's how we've done it.
If you remove your smoke detectors.
Right. Our good friend taught us that. And it's, you wrap it up. So you put the dough in there, and then you put your meat, and it's, it's sauteed and everything, all the spices wrapped together, tied together in a special way with string. And then it's boiled for an hour. And then after that, it's really good. So, and then another thing is you can either eat it with ketchup or not. It's a big controversy. If you eat it, you have to ask people. So
forgive us, any Puerto Rican listeners.
No.
We're just sharing the facts.
I like ketchup. Anyway, so I mean,
Wait, is Puerto Rican ketchup different than?
Well, there's mayo ketchup, which you're going to get us in trouble. And anyone on the island that listens to, because all these things are hot topics.
Yeah. Who are we?
So mayo ketchup is like, it's mayonnaise and ketchup mixed together.
Oh, I like that.
Bit of garlic.
But
Puerto
Ricans insist that they've invented this, and this is the Puerto Rican thing, is mayo ketchup.
Yep.
Huh.
And they'll have that. Then there's coquito as the other big, and tembleque are the other big Christmas.
Yeah, so coquito is a drink. Some people call it the Puerto Rican eggnog, but there's no eggs, and it's coconut.
No nog either.
Great. No, well, it's coconut milk, coconut cream. You can use sweetened condensed milk. There's a lot of variety. So everyone has their own, like per household, it's their own recipe. And then you add, cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, however you want, and rum if you desire. And that's a special Christmas drink. So that's special. Everyone makes it. A lot of people sell it, and everyone has their special recipe, just like the pasteles, just like tembleque, all these special desserts. So it's awesome because you just kind of go around, drive around. People are selling these things, or your friends.
There's also pitorro, but we can't talk about that.
That's not great anyway. It's great. So everyone brings stuff together, and we eat and really enjoy each other's company with that. So,
is there any, like you mentioned desserts? What kind of desserts are we talking about here?
So tembleque.
Yes. So that's like a coconut milk with a cornstarch and it's a gelatin type of thing, and it shakes. And so temblar in Spanish is like shake. So tembleque. And so it's fun. Okay. It kind of jiggle. It's fun. You sprinkle cinnamon stuff on top. Oh man, I'm forgetting.
I mean, they make all kinds of
special things.
The sort of the standard cakes. They make kind of rum cakes that are really the way that Puerto Ricans like to make their cake is really like juicy. They'll put like a lot of, it'll be like really liquidy,
they use a syrup.
Yeah, they'll pour
really
syrup
juicy.
into that. Well, that's what I mean. But it's like, you know what I mean. There's
medium
juice.
rare cake.
It's like that. It's like a sponge cake full of syrup.
Mm-hmm. Very moist. So.
Mm. Okay. All right. So are there any traditions per day? Is that just Christmas? Are there other foods that happen throughout the whole celebration, or is it kind of the same?
The pasteles take a lot of work to make. A lot of people buy them now from like one lady who makes a whole lot. But because they take a lot of work to make, it's actually kind of a thing too, where the whole family is making a lot of them. So there's a lot of people involved in making them. And then I wouldn't even say they reheat really, but like once you make them, then you keep eating those throughout the week. And like a lot of the same food is made, and then you're kind of eating it for all days.
You can make it, freeze it, and then when you want to eat it, you boil it. So, so we've actually had them a couple months ago. A lady at church made them for us. So it's just like, it's Christmas time, a little bit of Christmas. So it's people, but it starts now. Like people are, so we miss it. I mean, man, we're missing out, and it's still November right now.
It's people don't quit either. It's like you get to the end of Epiphany and you're like, all right, wow, we did the 12 days of Christmas. Nah, just keep going. It just keeps going.
Another thing I realize we're missing, which right now are there's a lot of parades that happen. So especially on the weekends, which maybe you can talk about on this later, but there's just all these parades of people that get together, and their families or their schools or organizations, and they get together in their cars, and they have big speakers, and then they get a Santa Claus. Before Christmas Santa Claus, later on it'll be the Three Kings, and like people dress up, and then they go around to they just go in and out of neighborhoods. They'll go downtown, and they just have all those Christmas songs playing. I mean, there's a whole, just like we have our Christmas songs that we listen to, it's just an awesome array of Christmas music.
They have a a mountain of Christmas music.
It's a whole, yeah. And they just go around, and then, sometimes they have stuff for the kids, and it's awesome.
The fact that we didn't talk about parrandas, no one's ever going to forgive us for that either.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what you got to talk about.
So a parranda, sometimes they'll call it like an assault. And it's a surprise party, but you're surprised because you're having the party. So a group of people will show up at your house, sometimes in the middle of the night, and then they'll basically be like, Asalto, and they start playing music, and then they come into your house, and you need to have food for them. And they'll have a party in your house, and then they'll basically kidnap you and take you to another house and do the same until the whole town has been kind of gathered up into this group. They skip our house. I think they know that maybe they're like, oh, they're Americans. Who knows what they're going to do?
Who knows what food they'll have?
Right.
Here's some.
But it's that's a really fun tradition. There's tons of Christmas traditions.
Now, they haven't come to your house, but have you participated in going to other people's houses for this?
Only in like a sort of a lighter version. It's like the trunk or treat version of trick or treat.
Well, it sounds like there are some really neat traditions. You were introducing Advent and more the services of Christmas. And you talked a little bit about Epiphany and the Three Kings. Let's talk about that a little bit more, about the traditions that surround Three Kings Day and what that means also for teaching about Epiphany as well.
Yeah, so like I said before, they'll dress up as the Three Kings. Kids are waiting for their presents from the Three Kings. Of course, because we have to have a little bit of everything. And in Puerto Rico, it's always just, let's just have more. So they'll have Santa Claus come and the Three Kings come. So it's not an either or. But it's the local tradition is really just sort of the fun of the Three Kings coming. But it's been a neat thing that we've been able to kind of start teaching. Well, what does it mean that the kings, we don't know how many there are of them, and we don't know if they're kings either, but that they visit and recognize Jesus as the king? What does it mean that, we have the symbolism of Solomon, and we have this idea of bringing gifts to recognize who is it that's come at Epiphany. So it's been kind of a neat thing, I think, for, like I said before, for Puerto Ricans to see the traditions that they already have kind of reinflated with the meaning that the scriptures, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, as they split off from these Roman Catholic ideas and had been kind of emptied out. It's been a neat thing for people who get to experience it again.
Are there other traditions that surround Three Kings Day? Because I know there's some traditions that we have here in the States too, that especially with food and things that are specific to the Three Kings Epiphany kind of day traditions.
Yeah, as you kind of mentioned earlier, all the kids the night before, will set out a box with the grass that they collect and a thing of water for the camels. Also, kids will get gifts again. So you kind of ask, when do you get gifts? Like Christmas or Three Kings Day? And they're like, well, both. But it's really, it's definitely for the kids. Christmas is kind of for everybody, but kids will they'll all get a special gift. So that's a great
parades.
Time.
So another kind of an interesting thing, and I don't know enough about this to speak authoritatively, but there's a long tradition of figurines for the Three Kings. And some of them are really historic, that I think they claim that they came over from Spain. And so there's like a whole museum of these figurines. We haven't been yet to this museum. We really need to go. And this is why I don't want to talk too much about it, because I don't know enough about it. I haven't gone. But there's the whole tradition related around the Three Kings and a connection kind of back to southern Spain. Whereas I think a lot of this came originally from the traditions over in southern Spain, brought over to Puerto Rico and kind of developed their own life here. There.
We have just a minute left. Any other stories or anything else you want to share about Christmas in Puerto Rico as we wrap up our time together today?
The big thing is, I do know that a lot of LCMS Lutherans like to travel after Christmas, and they know that Puerto Rico is a very nice place. Come visit us. If you're coming down, if you're going on a cruise, or you want to experience some of the beautiful weather that we have or some of these traditions, it's a domestic flight to visit Puerto Rico. But don't just visit come visit your brothers and sisters in Christ and help share and celebrate with us. We love to connect our church members with the greater family of God. And it's really simple. You can look us up on the LCMS website. Just look for Puerto Rico, or you can look at LCMS Puerto Rico or PR.org and just send us a contact form, and we'll receive you, and you can come to church for Christmas in Puerto Rico.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for spending time with us, sharing your stories about Christmas in Puerto Rico. Our guest today, the Reverend James and Deaconess Christel Neuendorf. Thank you so much for being our guests on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.